the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues, and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy.
So, what's on today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, this week it's our third and final visit to the Freakiest Museum in Wales with Richard Freeman and Laura and Eric Rowton. Enjoy.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to... Goodness, I think we seem to have been transported magically to an area of South London. Why do I know this? Because I think I can hear the guns of Brixton.
So, Rossiter, what's occurring then down at the old Youth Outreach Centre down in Brixton?
Oh, Barry, we got very nice community project going on, so as the youth of today can give back to the community.
Well, that sounds very nice. And where is this outreach occurring then? What's going on?
Oh, this outreach project is in two places, Wakefield Prison and Strange Ways. You know, they got the poor old lifers locked up for life for committing subhuman atrocities, but they're all on their own. So we're sending the kids over to keep them company in the cells at night.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. Now, for those of you who are not aware, On the Track is a show which comes out twice a week, on Wednesday evenings for about a quarter of an hour, and on Saturday afternoons for about twice that. And it is a mixture, a mélange, a muddle. I can't think of anything else to begin with M. Hey Lauren, what's something beginning with M?
Macaroni and cheese, of course.
Well, that works for me, okay? Thank you, Lauren. Because this show is just like macaroni and cheese. It is delicious hot, tasty cold, and a nice way of spending your Saturday afternoon. So, what is in it? Well, it's got hard science, and it's got weird shit, and it's got surreality. What's surreality? Well, don't ask him.
Hello, my name is Edward II of England, and you can always tell me by my poker face. And do I know what surreality is? Well, I've got far more pressing things with which I have to deal.
We rejoin the trip round the museum while Richard is casting aspersions on the Netflix series The Irregulars, of which this impressively Victorian message board was actually a prop.
I'm in the prop department. How tempting is it for someone to just
lots of people seeing it on television.
Yes, and then start having thoughts about it.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So it's fascinating.
Especially I'm sure the target audience was sort of younger people, and and they'll get, you know, I'm sure when we were all young, we saw things. It's, I've got to go and do that. I've got to.
The TV series, this board is supposed to have like possessed and given somebody magical powers to control boats.
Yeah. So no, that's interesting. Actually, people seeing it and then kind of projecting their own thoughts about it into it. It's definitely an interesting one. So we have other boards. So this one here is a 1919 William Ford board, which is...
Funny, he looks one of the more modern ones. And
It
so
William Ford, he's not the inventor of the Ouija board, but he's certainly the father of it in terms of bringing it to commercial success. So it's interesting to consider how this board would have been used, no doubt, by people to communicate with lost loved ones who passed in the Great War.
Is he the guy that fell out the window?
Yes. Well, so he was a devout Presbyterian, but, you know, brought the Ouija board to commercial success. And I think he was at the factory one day and he was doing something with a flagpole on the roof, actually. And then he fell. And a rather horrific way to die, yeah. So that board up there is made from an old pub table from the Albion Inn in West Yorkshire, which is the place that's supposed to be very haunted. So there's a bit of a clipping there that says about some of the ghost stories. So it was actually engraved onto that pub table, a bit of mahogany from the 1890s, by the grandson of a lady who used to live at the pub, with her having many, many stories to share about her encounters with the ghosts there, including one known as the Lady in Silk. And it's no longer a pub now, it's a private residence, but she kept that pub table. Pardon me. And then one day the grandson decided it would be wonderful to turn it into a Ouija board.
Yeah.
The idea that if you take something that's been in a haunted location and turn it into an occult artifact, what sort of energies might it have on it?
Indeed, yes, using charm materials, you got +1 to start, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes. We have a couple more boards there, they're both from the 1940s.
Yes, and right here on the left here is from the Haskellite company. Now, they make a sort of bonded plywood at the time, you know, kind of for planes, military stuff. And they thought one day to diversify because the Ouija board was so fantastically popular.
Yes.
And they came out with this, and within the first year they sold 4 million copies.
Good Lord.
And they were the off-brand Ouija boards. So.
The off-brand of the off-brand, because that's a Swami board.
1 in 20 houses in America had one, sort of thing.
Yeah, very, very popular, right up until The Exorcist came out, and then everybody changed their mind overnight.
It's out of burning in some places, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, very, I'll point out over here in this glass cabinet. So we have a really interesting object in here, which I can, it's a replica of a spirit lamp.
Oh.
So we keep it off so that it doesn't just go off. But the scale there is always in balance, the idea being, so it's based on a 1930s design, there's only one that's actually survives and it's in a museum in the Netherlands. The idea being that when you do a seance, you ask, are the spirits ready there, and they'll actually illuminate it.
Yes. Yes.
So we do pull that out and use that, because we do seance evenings here, where we go through the history of the seance. Yeah. We do some crystal gazing, and then we actually replicate a Victorian seance, very stripped back, and we use that. And
it's still kind of fake, so it's kind of a steampunk design. I think it surprises people. People were trying a bunch of different things back then.
Yeah.
And what's the story with this doll?
Well, she is actually just a nice little aesthetic piece. So she's a World War II kit doll, so she would have actually been made by the little girl who owned her. But she's another one of those objects that people like to tell us stories about when they come here on the tours and things. We had one lady, she said she was looking at it and its eye moved apparently to the side. So we don't claim that she's haunted or anything like that. She just, I think, looks rather nice in the room.
I do find it kind of odd, because we do have 2 dolls downstairs, and one of them is supposed to have been haunted. But people always... No one ever says about the one that's supposed to be haunted, but that one they do.
Because it looks old, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, the other one also is old. I don't know, there's just something about
She's in a prominent place.
Yeah, so when you have people sat around the table, whoever's in there is always like, she's just
looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. back almost to the modern ghost hunter, and we do pull these out and use these as well on particular nights. I'll let you do the story of these.
These are horror goggles from Metaphysical Research Society, made in the 1970s. So they're based upon an idea called oral glasses. So they were developed in the early 20th century. A special dye, it's kind of blue, has a blue tinge to it, and it's made from a highly toxic chemical called dicyanin. So it's like cyanide, but much more toxic.
Safe, not used.
It's a little bit leaky on the so I have been tempted. So the idea is you put them on, you see people's auras, you see people's things. People say they can see ghosts, and it does mess your eyes, and you can actually use them to see things. Whether it's that or the fact that it kind of hurts your eyes and you're kind of getting a bit fuzzy and seeing kind of weird things, I don't know. Interesting little side story though. The US government tried to use this compound to make night vision in the 1960s. So if you do find a pair, they have more of brown issues. So they added a little bit more of a chemical to it. And it did work, it did give them night vision, but apparently the soldiers started seeing other things. They started messing with their eyes. Apparently they saw demons in the jungles of Vietnam and whatnot. So yeah, they didn't really use it for very long.
Gave them night vision though.
Yeah, they gave them night vision, it did work, yeah. So yeah, it's actually quite difficult to find something that still has the because it has a wave degrading in not many.
I've heard of those things, so I've never seen one.
Yeah. And I'm always suspicious. Some companies still say your oral glasses now, but I'm quite suspicious that they don't have the right chemical compound.
They're not going to have that. They won't be allowed.
Yeah. It is illegal in many countries. I'm sure. I don't think it is in the UK though.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We're usually pretty hot on things like that.
Yeah, maybe it's just not done that much.
It's too rare to be bothered with.
So we have set up on the desk there a bit of a psychic experiment that's in mimicry of an MOD experiment from 2001, which is kind of based on Project Stargate, which you may have heard in the States, which itself was based on Russian research to develop psychic super soldiers around the concept of remote viewing, the idea that you can access information from a distant target. So it sounds rather high-tech, but really the experiment was they put a newspaper ad out to get some self-identified psychics, took them to a rural house, and then had a brown envelope on one side of the room with an image in, and sat them on the other side and said, tell me what's in the envelope. But what's interesting is in their now declassified report, they referred to the group that they were using as the control group and said that they were untrained and non-specialist and will be used as a control for the MOD's experienced practitioners. Right. So who those experienced practitioners at remote viewing are, we don't quite know where they are now and what they're up to, who knows. But
so we've had this experiment a few times here. Actually, a couple of people have actually got it right.
Yeah.
Surprisingly so.
I see electronic voice phenomena.
Yes. And we have here follow the EVP of
this. So Konstantin Raudiv, who famously he had about 100,000 audio tapes, and he would do experiments with different things. So sometimes he'd just use the radio and he'd tune it to kind of like a blank dead air station and communicate and get voices like that. He'd use tape recorders, so you've got the magnetic tape, and he would get voices on that. And then also his special Raudiv diode, which is like a crystal diode, and use that as well. So.
I did spend a few evenings doing that. We didn't.
We did it once. We had a strange thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, one time we used a shortwave radio to do that, and we actually did it at home, and obviously living in Wales, we actually got what sounded like a Welsh voice come through. We weren't able to, we don't speak Welsh, so we weren't able to find out what it was, but it was actually quite spooky. And that was like the first time we did it, but we've never been able to replicate that success. So I don't know what that was that one time.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I was pretty familiar with shortwave sounds.
Yeah.
And so it's like trying to ignore those and see what else comes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there were a few unidentified noises, but nothing that was good enough.
Well, there's there's a story with Tesla. He would sit in his lab late at night with crystal radios, and he would claim that he would almost like spook himself because he would hear voices coming through, and he didn't know where they were coming from or what they were. So.
I'm trying to see if we can get a proper crystal radio done so we can try to really experiment with that.
Because
that, people, spiritualist people, they use crystals for meditating, stuff like that, clean their power, and that's just fueled by crystal. So it makes you wonder if maybe there's something to that.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. Some things that have been donated to us, some things which are that we've had for years that we believe from our experiences are paranormally active. This one, for example, it's quite an ordinary looking object. It's just a little glass cloche, and it was given to us by a lady. So she bought it. It was just a brand new item, just to house a knick-knack or whatever. But when she got it, she noticed that it had scratches on the glass, so obviously not very good for display. She just put it to one side. But at the same time that entered the house, she started having paranormal activity, including nightmares of like a werewolf figure. She's seeing shadow figures, having scratch marks appear on her body, and even one day when she was driving down a rural road, she saw a shadowy black dog running down the road after her car. So this went on for about 2 weeks. It was quite horrific and terrifying for her, and then she rediscovered this just on her kitchen side, looked at the scratches again and thought, hang on a minute, is there something going on here? So she taped it shut and actually tried to put it out for recycling, but for whatever reason they didn't take it. So she was really struggling at this point. She was a young mother, and a mutual contact who knew she was struggling and knew what we did for a living gave her our phone number. We met her just in a car park in like a neutral location. She gave us the cloche, gave the story, and that was it. She didn't want her name, she didn't want any follow-up. We haven't heard from her since.
Scratches aren't on the inside, are they?
It's almost like they are within the glass itself.
Oh, it's like when they were made or something.
Yeah, so and interestingly, we used to keep it on the other side of the room, but we changed it over to here. And after we changed it, I was just kind of looking at it to see, could you still see the scratches with the light? And I noticed there was fingerprints on the glass. So I thought, I'll open it up and clean it. The fingerprints are on the inside. And we've actually looked back at footage and photographs that our friends Amy and Jared did when we first got the place. And the fingerprints weren't there when they photographed it. So it seems like they've developed in the time that it's been here. And it's taped shut. We've never opened it. So I don't know. In my mind, I almost think that there's someone else in this room, possibly on another object, that's trying to access and interfere with that object.
Yes, we have our suspicions as to which object it is.
Yeah.
The bar
I'm
chest.
just wondering, did you ever watch Warehouse 13?
The what, sorry?
Warehouse 13 was a science fiction, they're collected relics. You don't want too many powerful relics too close to each other.
Well, yeah, they have a bit of distance, but they have more space here than they used to have at home. We used to keep them in an outbuilding. And this is the only object that I actually kicked off our property, because I went into the storeroom one day and I got scratches on my body that were similar to what she reported, and it was quite traumatic. And more than that, because of keeping it next to everything else that was all in that room, I was like, I can't have you here any longer because I dread to think what knock-on effects there might be. So
we got this completely off our property. It's the only object we actually completely got off our property.
Yeah, so we kept it somewhere else until we got the museum, and then thought, well, if it's still there, we'll retrieve it.
Deconsecrated?
So
I don't know. You've got protection.
Well, it's
it's non-denominational. Consecrated.
Yeah, but we have protections up and do different things to try and keep things on this side of the building and not go over there. You'll notice when you go around, we have like the archangel charms up and things like that. So we do what we can to try and keep them here, and they interact with each other, I'm sure.
I get the feeling they like it here anyways.
The black dog is one of the great monster archetypes.
Yep.
It's found all over the world. There's one in every single county in Britain has its own black dog with its own name.
And in Wales, it's one of those like common sort of apparitions that people say is actually a black dog.
But we've had people who come on tours saying they've seen it, like just down the road. You know,
there's a hotel nearby here. I forgot the name of it. By the coast, there's a hotel that had a big black dog.
Yeah, it's not open anymore, but the staff knew.
Seems to me the West has much, because you've got obviously the Barguest up in Yorkshire, but down in Devon, I mean, the village is Black Dog next to Exeter.
It's really big down there as well.
So this is a recent acquisition. It's a yellow labelled object, and it comes from the Glass House. So you know the story of the Glass House, military prison. There was a big riot there in the 1940s, and it actually got destroyed.
Big sticks in the glass house.
Yeah, so it actually got destroyed in the midst of the riot. So it's a police baton, and it was recovered after the riot took place. So we have it again from a stressed environment to kind of put it to the test to see when people come and for example, they come on our event evenings, whether they can get any interactions with it. So everything that is red labelled, and possibly this one as well, we keep an activity log. So whenever anybody has an experience with an item, it goes in the log to see if we get the same sorts of things coming through.
Well, that's an example of an item right here, because this actually inspired us to get this item. that we upgraded recently from a yellow stressed environment to a red one. This cane is from Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital. Actually, more of a prison than a hospital, really. Where it's housed many of Britain's worst serial killers and all sorts of people.
I'm from that part. I have friends who work there.
Okay. So we got it as a yellow label, but we've upgraded it to a red label because on Halloween it was setting off different devices.
It was responding to like rampant activity, and as well when you were on the board, it seemed to like go mad.
Yeah.
Do you know who it belonged to?
No, all we know is it has the brass label on that says HMP Broadmoor on it.
It used to belong to a person who collected prison memorabilia and passed away.
Yeah. But we don't know whether it was one person's cane or maybe it was passed around by a few. It was, if it was hospital property and they gave it to a few.
Been quite a lot of writing on psychiatric illness and its links with paranormal phenomena.
Well, we've had some psychics come in here and say that we should get one of those blue lights, like they use in criminal things, to see if there's any blood on it. Because they're quite convinced that it's either been used to hurt somebody or one person actually said it's been used to kill somebody.
Yeah, and as you can see, we don't have a write-up on it. So they said that without even knowing what it is. We didn't say it was from Broadmoor, and they're just like, that's been used to hurt somebody.
It's been much more like we're giving you a tour right now. They're like, I'm looking at that cane and I feel like it's been used to hurt. Which I think it kind of looks nice, to be honest. I wouldn't automatically think that's a whole because of a whole place.
Possibly held, used by somebody who killed somebody.
Yeah, all that. So this here is a mirror. We've got our black magic mirrors. The story behind this is that it came from a man in Shropshire who collects and sells on old wooden tools. So he bought a big chest full of wooden tools at auction, and when he got it home, he realised that this mirror, we keep it turned away, was at the bottom. And not only that, there was a Victorian doll on top of the mirror with a screwdriver pierced through its abdomen. So he burnt the doll and he burnt the chest, and we ultimately got the mirror. But it has different markings on the back, including "Help Me" scratched into it. And he really didn't like the mirror. He ascribed horrific feelings and activities to it. Since we've had it, people said that they've seen like a hooded apparition in the reflection of it. Also, the smell of sulphur and urine, which are kind of like ritualistic. So that's why we call it the black magic mirror, because of how it was found, and our suspicion is maybe it was used for that. So you're welcome to have a look at it if you like. As I said, we keep it turned away, but you can come and stand on our Archangel Michael sigil and have a look and have a lift.
I think it was the other day we had somebody back there going, and we just over there, they're walking towards it. We didn't say anything about it. They said it was urine.
Yes.
And urine is something that's been used. Ritual items. That's the easiest thing to put it on the body. Yeah, that's the least painful one. It's the beginner step, isn't it?
Funnily enough, I did use urine in the cell last night. Sounds worse than the neighbour's cat.
What a fantastic place, Richard. What was your favourite exhibit in the museum?
Oh, blimey. Well, you've put me on the spot now. I really liked the goggles in the lab, in the paranormal lab. The goggles with the dangerous chemicals in. They were wonderfully Fortean.
I don't think I'd ever heard of them before.
I'd have heard of them before, but I thought I thought it was radium they had in them.
Gosh, can you imagine having dangerously radioactive minerals next to your eyeballs?
Well, do you remember the Radium Girls, when radium was all the rage because it glowed in the dark, and they had it on just about everything, and they had the girls painting things with it and putting it in their mouths, licking the paint brushes, and they all got cancer in their jaws.
How absolutely horrific.
Yeah, that was not so long ago. That was in the 40s and 50s in America.
That figures, doesn't it? Mm. So what else did you like?
I liked the whole thing. I thought it was wonderful. The seance room is particularly good.
And you went to the seance room after the events that we filmed, and well, I know what happened, but tell us what happened.
Well, we went to have a seance in the seance room, and rather than a Ouija board, they had a large pad of blank paper and an automatic writing planchette, which I've never used before.
No, I've heard about them. I've never actually seen them.
They're on little wheels and they have a hole for a pen or a pencil, so the entity can write or draw. And yeah, a skeptic would say it was the ideomotor factor, your subconscious making very small movements that you don't realise you're doing, and subconsciously moving the planchette. But also they had a little ghost lantern as well on the same table. So we set it all up, and it trundled around a little bit aimlessly. Then it started pointing at me. It kept pointing at me, and Laura said it seems to be someone who wants to talk to you. And then we asked who it was, and it spelt out Jeff, G-E-F, Jeff.
Brilliant.
And Laura says, how many feet do you have? And it wrote 4. And it says, do you know where you are? And it wrote Wales. And then it drew a picture of itself. It drew a crude picture of a mongoose. But unfortunately, the picture was then written over. We should have saved that and gone to another page, but it was written over as the planchette moved around. But we got the words Jeff written.
That's fantastic. And you weren't actually attempting to contact Jeff?
No, we were just seeing who was there, if anybody.
Because didn't you do another seance on the Isle of Man trying to contact
Yes,
Jeff?
we've done several seances on the Isle of Man with Ouija boards that mostly just turned up gibberish, just spelt out gibberish. But after the second one, I was sharing a room with my friend Jackie, and our beds were at right angles to each other and about 10 feet away from each other. And I was asleep the night after we'd done it, and Jackie woke up to hear this sound like a small animal jumping around on my bed. And she said, this went on for about 20 minutes, and she watched by the moonlight as it seemed to circle me, and I would move my arms and my legs out of the way in my sleep as it went by, as if I was reacting to it.
Good Lord. Have you had any Jeff-related shenanigans happen at your house? Because you've got a brick from Casham's Gap, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, it's currently in the garden. I did have it inside the house, but I found the moss on it was dying, and so it needed moisture. So it's currently in the garden. But no, nothing at all.
So, Jeff, what on earth were you doing in Wales?
Well, I just fancied a bit of a change. Everybody needs a holiday once in a while, and I used to get on the coaches and go down to Peel on the Isle of Man. So I'm a bit of a traveller, and I come all the way from India, if you remember, to the Isle of Man originally. So there's no reason I can't put myself around a bit.
But what about Richard? Why do you attach yourself to dear sweet Richard Freeman?
Well, he showed an interest in me, and you have to remember, every time you read about me, every time you think about me, every time you see me on Tinternet, I get more real, more powerful, because, you see, at the end of the day, I'm a tulpa, and tulpas feed on thought and attention, and I'm getting a lot of it right lately.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe Follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, says, don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you'll miss the new episodes.
And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
If you've been affected by any of the topics in today's episode, you can just bugger off, because we don't give a monkeys. Bloody well get a grip. Sort your own bloody problems out rather than ringing up somewhere.
That was a public information film.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another show. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say a big thank you to Richard and to Laura and to Erik for the last 3 episodes. They've been absolutely magnificent. I'm going to be back on Wednesday. What am I talking about on Wednesday? Well, I'm not sure. I think it's quite likely that we're going to be visiting a bug show with Miss Guinevere, her 2 small children, her mother, Miss Isabel, and me. And all sorts of hijinks ensued. So, that's Wednesday, and I'll be back on Saturday. What are we doing on Saturday? Well, we're going to have the first of quite a few on and off episodic episodes of me, Richard, and Darren Naish talking about all sorts of exciting things. So, assuming that you're there to watch Mr. McCrinnan, I'm going to be there because I'm back again now. I'm going to be there doing all of the stuff that me and Miss Lilith here do on a Saturday afternoon on our normal weekend jiggery pokery and gubbins. And if I'm there doing the gubbins with Lilith and you're there watching the show, I most certainly will be seeing you.